big question everybody's asking is what can be done to solve this war? Beyond the battles, what can be done to solve the bigger war between Israel and the Palestinians who are so committed to destroying us? Hear what Bibi Netanyahu had to say in this very short, clear, and instructive message.
There is, though, a great battle going on between modernity and medievalism in your part of the world. And if you talk about democracy being the idea that made Israel strong and markets and capitalism being the idea that will propel Israel into the 21st century and beyond, there are other ideas at play throughout the region. And there are a lot of people who suggest that, that in fact, one of the things that is animating those terrorist groups that have now risen up throughout the region and are tyrannizing most of the people, many of the people of the Middle East, that they're founded on an idea. And that as many drone strikes or airstrikes or even ground wars that happen without having an idea to substitute theirs, that we cannot win. You can't beat something, as one of my colleagues so often says, with nothing. So what I want to ask you is, as the leader of the only truly democratic market economy in the Middle East, what is the idea that is going to beat this? Is it democracy?
It's certainly greater freedom. I think there's a process in which the Arab world and parts of the Islamic world move towards the idea of greater freedom. It's not automatic, but it's certainly a good contrast to the kind of tyranny and savagery that they're experiencing now. And the brunt of this savagery is afflicted on Muslims right now. Millions have been displaced and hundreds of thousands butchered, so they have a pretty good idea of what they don't want. I actually think that sometimes in these kinds of battles, it's first of all important to win physically. Win. Fight. I mean, combating Nazism first involved beating Nazism. You know, you had denazification after you won. You have to win. It's very important not to allow these beasts the freedom to prowl, because what they're doing is they're emptying parts of the Middle East into Europe. They're now going to empty Africa. And you have these two human streams fleeing misery. I spoke to Prime Minister Renzi of Italy and to David Cameron, Prime Minister of Britain, and to Angela Merkel just in the last few weeks. And I said, I don't want to talk about ISIS, that's politically loaded. You can ask me privately later. But I wanted to speak about Boko Haram. I wanted to speak about Al-Shabaab. You know, there must be at least 12, probably closer to 20 leaders of African nations who came to Israel, just as Asia is coming to Israel. And they only want three things from us: Israeli technology, and Israeli technology. The African states all come and they say, we want Israeli technology in agriculture, in healthcare, in irrigation, whatever. And they all come down to one word: security. Help us in security. So I suggested to some of the European countries a simple partnership. We form consortiums to deal with individual countries, help them with their economy, help them with their security. The Islamist movements in Africa are not yet strong. They can be defeated today. They can be defeated today. It'll be a lot harder tomorrow. And my point is, in addition to the battle of ideas, there's the battle. You have to win the battle. And the earlier you win it, the cheaper it will be. The longer you wait, eventually these forces will dissipate, because there is no hope, there is no future for a world of darkness. And I think the Islamists will lose out. But it may take decades, it may take half a century. Nazism was defeated but it claimed the life of millions, tens of millions of people, and a third of my people. I think defeating them early is important. We'll defeat them in the battle of ideas, but let's defeat them on the ground as well.
A very, very long time ago, King David, 3,000 years ago, King David told us. He writes in his book of Psalms, Adonai oz le'amo yiten, Adonai yivarech et amo b'shalom. God will bless his people with strength, and then God will provide his people with peace. First comes strength, and only afterwards comes peace. This notion that we negotiate our way through peace. When someone's trying to kill you and you want to meet them halfway, that's not negotiable. There is nothing to discuss. You first need to neutralize the threat, and that's when peace comes to the table. But this Western notion that everything is negotiable, everything's got a price, we've got to compromise with every player at the table, is absolute insanity. It's a suicide wish. Because when dealing with people that are trying to destroy you, the only way to peace and stability is through that strength. And in fact, it was King Saul, the father-in-law of King David, who said that who taught us that those who are kind to the cruel will ultimately end up being cruel to the kind. Prime Minister Netanyahu could not have been more clear that the best way to peace is through when we are strong, when we are successful, when we are unafraid and unapologetic, when we're not asking permission from other people in order to protect our wives and children, when we go ahead and we take advantage of the opportunity to neutralize the threats, that is when we're going to find peace. In fact, in 1982, when Israel took out the Iraqi nuclear reactor, the world gave Israel a proverbial slap on the wrist. It was decades later that President Bill Clinton thanked Israel for making the world a safer place. They might tell us openly, in the open, that they're upset with our actions. The United Nations condemned Israel for invading Ugandan airspace in the Entebbe raid to rescue their own hostages. It's laughable, but at the end of the day, we earn the respect of the world when we are strong. We lose the respect of the world when we are weak. If you look back at the past 75 years of the modern state of Israel, the proudest moments of Israel's history were when Israel did not listen to the international community. Think about the Iraqi nuclear reactor attack, the Entebbe raid, and the Six-Day War. But when Israel was waiting for the world's approval, it's then that we lost the world's respect. Times like Yom Kippur War and perhaps October 7th, when we refused to take action lest we be perceived in the eyes of the world as instigating the war. The Torah makes it very, very clear to us that when someone rises up against you, you have to strike them first. It's what we call the strike first doctrine. When we exhibit the strike first doctrine with faith and with fortitude instead of weakness and looking over our shoulder, it's then that we experience the blessings of God Almighty to overcome our enemies, to succeed in implementing peace and prosperity for all people involved. May God Almighty inspire us all, and especially to inspire Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu to be inspired by the values of the Torah, of his own identity, of our own identity as Jews, not to be intimidated, because the world has so much respect for Jews who respect themselves, and the world has no respect for Jews who don't respect themselves.